I'm sorry, and I'm so disappointed, but whatever you're eating now, just stop. Stop.
Gordon Ramsay is perhaps most famous for shutting down his chefs with searing insults.
JP!
Yes, chef.
Just pathetic! JR!
Yes, sir.
Just ridiculous!
He's also been known to shut down entire kitchens when a restaurant isn't performing to his standards. So we went through a bunch of history to bring you a deep dive into the top times that Ramsay closed down the kitchen. Let's get into it.
You, and you!
The Grasshopper.
This one you'll love. This one is one of my favorites.
It's actually pretty rare for Gordon to completely shut down an entire kitchen or restaurant, as he has to actually feel like people's lives are in danger to do so. But in cases like the Grasshopper restaurant, it was pretty clear that things were near that level when Gordon visited for his sit-down. Unlike with other shutdowns though, Gordon didn't even let the Grasshopper stage its first night of service.
Touch it. It's raw.
As he discovered pretty much immediately that the kitchen had a serious problem with cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is, as Ramsay puts it, basically the first thing that you learn as a chef not to do. But it's as if that was one of the specialties of the Grasshopper, as they were storing all sorts of different raw and cooked meats near one another in the small refrigerator in the kitchen. That prompted Ramsay to stride into the walk-in freezer, where things went from bad to worse, as there was more cross-contamination there, and really just a ton of contamination period, with super slimy chicken breasts as well as a large piece of salmon that looked like it had been
attacked by cats!
Because of that, Ramsay shut things down until those issues could be addressed, and from the looks of it, it couldn't have come any sooner.
Come on, guys.
It's not bread pudding, it's rotten shrimp.
I'm closing the place down. Switch it off. Hey, Panini Head, are you listening to me?
Yes.
You're gonna kill someone. I'm eating here.
This inspection didn't start out great. Ramsay first found a display cart that had food that was at least a week old on it, but in reality had probably been much longer, as some of it was rock hard. After slow service led Ramsay to some plates of food that appeared unchecked, things went from bad to worse, as he discovered a lot of rotten spinach on the plates that were waiting to be sent out. The sloth and slovenly chef calmly explained that the spinach came pre-washed to the kitchen. Something that Ramsay clearly had never heard of before, because it doesn't happen. But that's not all, as Ramsay ended up finding out that someone actually sold from the aforementioned display-only tray too. Beyond that, there were some rotten shrimp sitting above the display-only dessert tray that was so old that the chef mistook it for an old bread pudding.
Oh, you think I'm gonna stand here and watch you serve contaminated food?
No.
Yeah.
In fact, it's still hard to tell exactly what it was, but it was definitely bubbling, as Ramsay pointed out, right before shutting down the entire kitchen, as he'd seen enough. Or in the case of that shrimp pudding, he'd seen more than enough.
This is not a romantic eat out. This is a Valentine massacre.
Everything in there was putrid.
What?
Everything in there was putrid.
How long has that been in there?
Give me an answer, because I'm myself.
The moment that shut this restaurant down starts with Ramsay going down to the basement and immediately finding rat traps and rat droppings, as well as copious amounts of fruit flies and cockroaches. When he asks the owner if the restaurant has rats, the response is that rats are everywhere. As Ramsay starts looking around the kitchen at the meat selection, one of the staff tell him that everything in the kitchen was literally putrid. As it was. The meat was really not even meat anymore, but some sort of meat goo that you can smell even if you're just watching this video.
Tell him in your language he'll kill somebody!
That's all Ramsay needed to see as he saved a few customer lives by shutting down this dump, at least for the day. Why?
You are a walking disaster. Lift it up. The fridge is full of
Why indeed? While this kitchen wasn't the worst that we've ever seen on Kitchen Nightmares, it's up there in terms of the general mismanagement that went into cooking that much food for a restaurant that maybe gets 20 customers a day. Ramsay went into the walk-in freezer and found enough food to feed an entire army and went through it disgusting bit by disgusting bit. It was clear that the owner thought that buying in bulk was the way to go, and then that cooking in bulk made more sense after the bulk food started to go bad. There were pounds and pounds of leftover mixes for burritos, enchiladas, and just straight up ground beef that had solidified into a gigantic, disgusting mess.
I wouldn't trust you running a bar, let alone a restaurant.
After he found the cement mix-like refried beans, he asked the owner to carry the beans out to the customers who were currently eating them.
Are you stupid.
After he refused, Ramsay asked why, and the owner said it was because he was too embarrassed. So Ramsay took things into his own hands and showed the customers what they weren't going to be missing.
12 seconds later.
Never has a group of customers been more relieved to have to cancel lunch. What do you want me to do? Stand here and cry?
I've eaten this dog food in the fridge.
That's the fish bag.
It's what? God.
This kitchen was bad. It wasn't just the food. The state of the general cleanliness of the entire kitchen was one of the worst in the history of kitchen nightmares. From top to bottom, there was dirt, grime, mold, and levels that are so bad that it's as if the kitchen hadn't been cleaned in years. When he asked the head chef if he knew how dirty the kitchen was, he admitted that he did, and Ramsay said that he should be ashamed of himself. There were dog food bags in the walk-in freezer, half-cooked meat, pesto sauce that looked radioactive, and on top of that, a general malaise or near-laughing expressions on the faces of everyone responsible.
What do you find? What's funny for you?
What do you want me to do? Stand here and start crying or something?
That it's amazing that they were even in business in the first place, let alone for the years it obviously took for the kitchen to accumulate that much filth.
Guys, both off tomorrow?
Are we done here for good, or?
Old pork.
Smell it! That's fucking older than me. How does that taste? How does it taste?
This one is sort of sad, but at least has some self-awareness that other restaurants don't tend to have. Here, the main server, Diana, knows that the problem with this restaurant is the food.
The main problem with the restaurant is what?
The main problem is the food.
That could mean more than one thing, and in the case of this restaurant, does, as it's not only serving bland and crappy food, but also food that's basically unsafe for human consumption. Cross-contamination, spoiled food, and just general poor kitchen hygiene. Ramsay got into the kitchen itself and started to find a ton of different issues, from frozen food to all sorts of unlabeled meat. When Ramsay stumbles across an old piece of pork that looks similar to one that he was served earlier that day, you can actually hear the panic in his voice building to the anger that he rightfully has towards this sloppy, filthy restaurant and those responsible.
You should be ashamed of yourselves. Under no circumstances can we continue to serve food. Shut the place down.
Lobster almost kills a man.
Yeah, you smell that? And that's what that man's just eaten. What's that smell in here?
Apparently, once a lobster or really anything starts decomposing, it releases a lot of ammonia, and that's something that could end up killing a person.
Ugly motherfucker.
A lesson learned by this poor customer of Sal's Pizzeria, as he immediately became ill and was vomiting in the bathroom before Ramsay caught wind of what was happening. Thinking that the man may have been dead, Ramsay ordered the same meal to figure out what was wrong with it, and immediately smelled the ammonia coming from the bad lobster.
What's the matter? The food ain't that bad, baby.
It's from there that he implored the owner to call 911, and the owner did just that before asking for a shot of vodka to calm his nerves and for the cameras to be shut off, just as Ramsay was about to shut off his kitchen.
Joe, just clarify something for me.
We could possibly kill them.
Kill someone.
That definitely was a first. And hey, science fact, kids, decomposing meat equals bad for you.
Smell. It's horrific.
Pigeon in the kitchen.
Oh, my God. And the freshest thing in this kitchen is that pigeon flying around. And he's lucky he's still alive.
This place was so gross that it had started letting the wildlife in, and Ramsay found it with a pigeon flying around in the kitchen. While most restaurants deal with critters like cockroaches and mice or even rats that are all attracted to the thrown away food, these guys were just asking for it by never throwing anything away, or even putting anything away. Also,
What more do you want from me?
the seafood sauce had a dead lobster in it. Not a cooked lobster, but a dead lobster.
That is a raw dead lobster. That is disgusting.
Hoarders and restaurants do not mix.
This is a horror show. When was the last time this walk-in fridge was cleaned?
Monday.
There are a few personality traits that don't mix with being responsible for food safety or cleanliness or just a general good atmosphere for a restaurant. At the top of that list has to be whatever traits lead someone to hoarding.
Compulsive hoarding.
Can you see the poop on the top over there?
While food hoarding can make sense for a failing restaurant where it'd be hard to throw away any meat or produce, keeping old broken down pieces of furniture and equipment make way less sense. As Ramsay explores and gets more and more grossed out, he sums it up by stating that
The place is littered with
and you'll understand his point of view when you see how he found some years-old shoes hidden beneath one of the booths in the restaurant, a Joker card in one of the seats in the lobby, and lots of rotten meat juice. On top of that, there's the cross-contamination from cooked food and uncooked food, food equipment in the inside of a wall, and just crap everywhere. This is definitely one of the bloodiest kitchens in the world, and like Ramsay states, it's criminal.
a leg of lamb, blood.
And to sum up the cluelessness of the owner, when Ramsay asks why they need so much the response is,
We serve that
delivered with clueless pride.
That is a what?
This one takes the cake.
Me.
Chef Ramsay has observed the pattern of fast food followed by fast returns.
This pizza just got sent back?
Pineapple on pizza.
This restaurant prided itself on its fast service and apparently its equally fast returns from its customers. Maybe if they'd taken their time, at least with Ramsay around, they would have avoided him going into the walk-in freezer and discovering a house of horrors. It's clear in this clip that the amount of negligence and filth really has put Ramsay over the edge, as he typically doesn't reach these levels of screaming and confusion, and because he usually has more empathy for people in the restaurant business.
Hot wings next to raw pork. You'll kill everybody.
However, here Ramsay hits prime levels of Ramsayness, screaming expletives and really trying to do it in a way that might work on someone who'd let things get that filthy in the first place. He makes it about money, and that's something that a failing restaurant owner might understand.
You've got no idea on the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you've pissed through your hands.
Even if he's clearly been a slob long enough to let his kitchen reach those levels. At least there weren't any birds flying around the place, though.
Pigeon.
Don't shut us down. For your chance to win an iPhone X, click that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.
It's almost like you've got a breaded condom in your mouth. Oof.